Has come live from a briefing from the Prime Minister's official spokesman. I say men because you told me it was a man yesterday, Tom. This is the event where the Prime Minister's spokesman briefs journalists about the things that you want to tell the public. So what do they want what information do they want you to disseminate from their briefing?
Well, you know, it's always a bit of a tug of war in these briefings. The government has their lines that they want to impart, but the journalists, the lobby, have their questions they want to ask and the information they want to tease out of the government. We started today by discussing this cabinet briefing, this cabinet meeting, or I should say probably two cabinet meetings, because before the official cabinet sat political cabinet earlier this morning. And why is that important? Well, political cabinet does not have to impart the information that was discussed, whereas official cabinet does require a readout to determine what was discussed. That's government business rather than political business. That's the sort of differentiation between those two. And we got this readout from the official cabinet meeting, talking a lot about this growth plan, talking a bit about the war in Ukraine as well. However, asking about the situation in the gilt markets, the intervention of the Bank of England, we got the response that the government did not discuss that in official cabinet, although it may well have been discussed in political cabinet. Another bone of contention here, of course, is that this is the second cabinet meeting, the second official cabinet meeting that the Prime Minister has held since becoming Prime Minister, and also the second time when her official spokesman was not allowed to attend the meeting. We understand that no special advisors were allowed to attend that meeting as well. Now, that's a break from the way that these meetings were conducted under Boris Johnson, when civil servants and special advisors sat in on those meetings as well at the back of the room, listening in, taking notes. Under Liz Truss, these are much more closed meetings, without civil servants or special advisors, without the Prime Minister's official spokesman present. And why is that important? Well, for the government, it's so that they can keep a lid on leaks, so that these meetings stay more private. They're meant to be private discussions of the government after all, but it also means that when we ask questions of the Prime Minister's spokesman about what happened in that meeting, all the Prime Minister's spokesman has to rely upon is what he was told by the Prime Minister or ministers in that meeting, and he creates the readout that way. It creates another little barrier to information there. Now, for the government, they may say that's necessary to stop leaks, but for a free and independent press, for many, that is a concern.
Tom, this is all very important, of course, because the markets are watching what's happening in the political arena, and they've taken fright, it seems, once more. I'm just looking at what the spokesman said. Downing Street saying there's no return to austerity under a Liz Truss government. But clearly there are question marks about how the Chancellor is going to balance the books.
There are certainly question marks, and the IFS has been pointing, the Institute for Fiscal Studies, I should say, has been pointing to around a 60 billion gap that would need to be met either by higher taxes or by reduced spending. Now, the government does seem to reject that idea, saying that economic growth can fill that gap, that by the middle of this decade, economic growth under their intention will have picked up, and that, of course, creates higher tax receipts without the need to raise taxes. However, many commentators have pointed to the fact that this seems to be a bit of a gamble on behalf of the government. If they can't get economic growth higher, if they can't tick up GDP growth to their target of 2.5% every year, then there is that gap in the budget that would need to be filled by spending cuts. However, I should say that the Prime Minister's spokesman is saying that they are not entertaining the idea of £60 billion in spending cuts. They do not want to return to austerity, as you said. This government is fixed on growth. Although I suppose the question there that arises after that is, if that growth doesn't materialise, what is plan B? For the moment, we don't have an answer.
Tom, we'll chat to you later in the show. Thanks for the update for now.
I do think it's worth mentioning, though, there is something going on the Labour Party side of things as well, and that's the deselection of Sam Tarry, the MP for Ilford South. This took place last night, and Sam Tarry has lost that selection battle. He lost it by 361 votes to 499, and it is really important to focus just briefly on this little bit of turmoil in the Ilford South Labour Party, because Sam Tarry is seen to be a Member of Parliament on the left of the party. Now, he's been replaced by a guy, or not replaced, but replaced as a candidate for the next election by a guy called Jazz Athwal. This is a factional battle within the Labour Party between the left and the right, and it revisits a similar battle that took place in 2019 when the same two candidates battled it out for that seat. But Jazz Athwal, the guy who has just been selected to fight that seat for the Labour Party next time round at the next general election, he was suspended from the Labour Party membership one night before that last election by an NEC that was majority Corbynite. Now the NEC is majority Starmerite. That selection has flipped round. It's one to keep an eye on, because Sam Tarry, the current Member of Parliament who's just been deselected, has said that he wants to be assured of the integrity of the result, asking for full information about the electronic votes that were cast there. It's one to keep an eye on, and it does show a little bit of factional infighting there within the Labour Party.